So in this segment, we're going to be discussing this little discussion between Sophie Ridge and Sam Coates regarding when they think an election is going to be. And I think Coates's analysis is quite interesting. What he's basing a 25 election on. I do have some disagreements with both of them, but I think more with Coates than Ridge, which is interesting, given I think that Coates has probably closer to the right answer, but his working out is wrong in my opinion. So let's have a little listen.
Now, Sam put out a tweet today that really put the cat among the pigeons, where he said that he thinks the chances of a January 2025 election are slowly rising. So I need to find out what on earth is going on here. Because, Sam, I'll put it out to you first. My thesis of the last few days has been that actually the chances of a spring election have gone up because, if Rishi Sunak can't get legislation through, if he can't command the authority he needs to get his MPs on side, then the whole thing could blow up. He might be forced to effectively call an election. You only have to look at, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Theresa May to realise that, getting legislation through, if they can't do it, if it's sticky, that's what leads to the end of premiership.
So that's where it's interesting because when you look at those three, right, Theresa May ultimately resigned when she realised her Brexit deal wasn't going to get through. She didn't call a general election, though. Boris Johnson ultimately resigned, didn't call an election. Liz Truss, same thing, right? So this argument of when they can't get legislation through, it doesn't cause a general election. The Prime Minister can do it if they want to because they repealed the Fixed Term Parliament Act under Boris Johnson, which is ultimately a stupid thing to do because it gives way too much power to the executive. However, I think Ridge's take on this is weird given the fact that she's saying if you can't get legislation through, it ultimately leads to the end of the premiership, which that bit is true, but it doesn't really mean an election is coming because, the Tory party, that's the one thing I don't think they'll risk for a good few months at least, 6 months potentially, because they know chances are they're going to lose the election. So why would they give up power? It'd be a very silly thing for them to do, in my opinion.
So that was my thought. You think he's going to go long? Explain yourself.
It's an interesting thesis. I think I'm right. Look, I believe that the odds of a January 2025 election are rising right now. Look, I just think, not dissimilar to your basic thought, that there is a sharply escalating chance that this government gets stuck, right? It just can't get anything through. And maybe that's on the migration bill that I was just talking about, maybe on something else. Right, it takes...
The Northern Ireland Protocol, or the Windsor Framework, is still, that's another sticking point potentially as well. So that could be quite an interesting one to keep an eye on because there were a lot of abstentions when it went through second reading originally. So it's possible that could be another one. This Rwanda bill could also be another sticking point, depending on what the numbers look like. So, Coates has some interesting points here regarding that. But I can't see. I think what he's saying makes sense. Go along with the general election, depending on what the economy looks like. Maybe autumn if things are picking up a little bit. But given the fact that the economy shrunk in October, I just don't see it picking up because this lot don't know how to. These lot don't understand economics.
It's just 29 MPs, Tory MPs, to block legislation. Now, if you can remember back as far as Monday, 50 Tory MPs didn't obey a three-line whip, and 99 of them...
A three-line whip should mean they're kicked out of the party, really. To disobey a three-line whip and get away with it is... that should break the rules of politics, really, because the three-line whip means you have to vote how your party leaders direct you to, how the whips direct you to.
Abstained on various bits of legislation. So, the numbers of rebelling MPs are there.
You're making my argument here.
Yeah, but my point is, look at the state of the Tory party. So if you tell me that that's not going to happen soon, right, at that point, what happens, right? Does Sunak bend? Or does he call an election at the point where he's losing the legislative agenda and he's 20 points behind the polls? That is annihilation.
That's facts. It will be annihilation. And I think the Tory party know that, and for this lot who crave power so much, why would you give it up so easily? It doesn't make sense to do it when there's no chance you'll win a general election, especially with a guy like Rishi Sunak in charge. And this is where Coates' analysis gets a bit more interesting.
He will want to go, potentially, with the threat of letters hanging over him, with dignity. So what does he do? He doesn't bend, he doesn't change course. That's not him. That's not how he fought the leadership contest. He just decides, either because he knows he's going to be ousted on his own terms, that he's going to go. A sort of dignified flounce, as it were. I just think...
I don't think he's got that kind of dignity in him. I think that's way too much praise on a guy who is a bit of a bumbling buffoon, to be honest with you. Didn't know how to pay for petrol or put petrol in a car. Didn't know how to pay for a can of Coke. Like there's no dignity with him. Let's be honest. But these people are obsessed with legacy and how the history books will remember them. He will be the first non-white prime minister, but he'll also be another prime minister who was booted out by the party. So it's possible he'll resign, but that doesn't mean that a general election will trigger.
That there is a appreciable chance that early in 2024 we have a new prime minister, right? And
a new prime minister meaning a leadership change.
Because of that, that person will not want to give up the job straight away. And they'll think, I'm here in office, I want to use a few months, maybe I'll get a summit in Washington, I want to turn things around. I'm going to use the time that I have in Downing Street to show why I'm the best Prime Minister of the 5 in this Parliament.
I think 5, it's 4. It's not 5, it's 4. It's very weird. He went for 5.
And
someone laughed. I think it's the camera person.
Last moment, they could go for an election. Well, that's January the 28th, 2025. So because of the numbers, and because you can't lose your legislative programme and be behind in the polls and then call an election, I think we might be waiting for a long time indeed.
So it's quite interesting there, the two different takes there. One, which is Rich saying that Sunak might be forced to go to a general election to kind of, get these MPs on side or at least a threat. But the issue is I can't see him doing that because he knows he'll lose and he doesn't really have much to gain. They go to a fresh election and then what? Unless he's going to shuffle out a load of them like Boris Johnson did and get in a load of new candidates, which I don't know if that will happen. Some of the people on the candidate list are like Sebastian Payne, who looks like Will from In-Betweeners. So not the biggest list to pick from. And I don't think they'll have a lot of people who want to run anyways, like decent campaigners. So I think there are good points on both sides of this. That's what makes it interesting. I think Coates has a stronger argument, especially given the fact that you had Andrea Jenkins the other day, and this is something we'll discuss in another clip, saying that we will have a new leader before the next election. So it looks very much like there are a lot of Tory MPs who are confident that they're going to get rid of Sunak, and I think they're thinking that's going to happen in the sharpish when the Rwanda bill goes to the third reading. That's what I think thoughts are among certain Conservative MPs. So it'd be quite interesting to see that. I can see Coates being closer to being right because I think it will be in the autumn, so it'll be closer to next year. But again, I don't know because it's hard to predict. But for me, it's why would you go call an election when the chances are you're going to lose? You're not the most confident campaigner. You have, you can see out a term. Fair enough, he's not achieved anything. But, I don't think they'll see it that way. Politicians are weird when it comes to legacy. So, yeah, I agree. I think more with Coates than I do Ridge. But I think I don't think there'll be a leadership change in the Conservative Party, which is a bold statement given that we've had multiple leadership changes in the Conservative Party. But I've got a feeling Sunak might see it out, but I'm not sure. Which is scary given there's very minimal stability in this country when it comes to leaders, when it comes to prime ministers, Conservative ones anyways. But I thought this was worth discussing, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I hope they do more of these kind of discussions with decent political journalists. I think Coates is pretty good. Ridge is definitely Sky's best kind of political correspondent. I don't know what she defines herself as on this. I think she's probably the best one Sky have. So yeah, hopefully we'll see more kind of interesting discussions like this. And if there are, and I see them, I will probably try and cover them. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Do you think there'll be an election in spring 24 or spring 25? And yeah, support the channel on Patreon if you can. And I'll catch you in the next one.